Today, we're joined by the best punter in the NFL. Thomas Morstead stops by to talk about the 2023 Jets, everything you ever wanted to know about punting, and more. That's ahead on Locked On Jets.
You are Locked On Jets, your daily New York Jets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. This is the Locked On Jets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's Friday, November 3rd, 2023, and I'm your host, John B. from GangGreenNation.com. Thanking you so much for making the show your first listen or first watch every day. Subscribe to the show for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, so you'll get new episodes as soon as they're posted. If you're listening on a podcast source and enjoy the show, give it a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube and enjoy the show, give this episode a big thumbs up. These things help us out and help other Jets fans find Locked On Jets. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match of up to $100. Well, today we're joined by a special guest. Thomas Morstead is back. We had him on a couple of months ago. Morstead returns after his best game of the season, where he was one of the stars of a Jets win. It's not often you say a punter is one of the stars of a win, but that was absolutely true this past Sunday. Thomas and I have a great discussion. We talk about where things stand with the 2023 Jets. We talk Aaron Rodgers. We talk about everything you would ever wanted to know about punting in the NFL and holding on field goals and extra points. Again, it's a great discussion, so let's jump right in. Joining us today is the best punter in the NFL, Thomas Morstead. Thomas, outstanding game Sunday. Congratulations. I mean, you were one of the stars of the Jets win over the Giants.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a hell of an experience for sure.
So it was kind of a crazy game that it felt to me, or a lot of fans, like the game was lost, and then you had that, the crazy comeback in the last half minute of regulation to force overtime. And I'm just wondering, like as a fan, you can look at this and you can feel like the game is lost. Like on the sideline, dude, the guys like always believe that they're going to win no matter the situation.
Well, I can't speak for every team, but I think I think we have a crew of guys that are just continue, chopping away, and regardless of how bleak it may look, and that's kind of irrelevant. I know if you do feel that way, then you probably have lost already. So it doesn't give you that. You got to have the right mindset to give yourself the best chance to win. And I think over the course of this season, we've validated that this team knows how to just keep hanging in there. And doesn't mean we always get it done, but we've been hanging tough. So it's been cool to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely gutty team. So through the first 7 games, I mean, you guys have come through on so many key moments in games. How's the feeling heading into Monday night's game against the Chargers?
It's just the next game. It's obviously a little bit highlighted just because it's Monday Night Football. But it's the biggest game of the season because it's the next game. And, if we want to get to where we're trying to go, it's a very important game. So, I don't know, just the next game on the schedule, and we're excited about it.
How big of a difference has it been when Aaron Rodgers has been around the team? I mean, I know he's not playing right now, but there have been weeks where he's been at the stadium, on the sideline this past week. Even though he's not in the lineup, how much of a difference is he making just being around the team right now?
Well, I just speak for myself personally. It's exciting to see him. When he went down, not only is everybody disappointed selfishly for themselves for this team, but personally, you kind of hurt for the guy. It's very anticlimactic, obviously, and we're all we care about him and we're invested in him, just like he's invested in us, and it's just cool to see him making progress every week. Seeing being able to walk on without a boot, and then he's out there throwing a little bit, and it just kind of is. It's cool to see. It's exciting to see. And it also provides a little bit of a glimmer of hope that maybe there is a chance he'll be back this season. I think it's good all the way around, and it's just good having him around. His personality, the way he's connected with the guys on the team in the off season and in training camp. He's one of the guys, and he's one of the rarely do I call a quarterback a glue guy in the locker room, but he definitely is a glue guy. He knows he got to know everybody really well, and really you could see he made a concerted effort to connect with and get to know all of his new teammates this year. And so just really nice to see him around, and we'll look forward to having him back on the field on Monday again.
You hit a lot of amazing punts against the Giants. I mean, there were a couple where you dropped it inside the 5 yard line. It had just the right spin on it. Is there like a technique you use to put like a different spin on the ball depending on where you're kicking from on the field?
Yeah, I mean, you'll see most guys in the league now that when they're punting, getting closer to the opposing or to the end zone you're trying to score, and a shorter punt is required, and most guys will hit an end over end punt. And there's a few other punts that guys are hitting as well. But, it's not I don't know anybody that can honestly look me in the eye and tell me that they're able to control the way the ball bounces, right? You're hitting not a spherical object, right? It's got points on both ends. And so, some of it's just the luck of the bounce. The field was really wet during the game. And so I noticed in pregame that when the ball would hit, it wasn't checking super far distances. It was kind of hitting, even if it was spinning, it was kind of squeegeeing as it hit, and it didn't have these long checks of distance. So it definitely felt like I could be a little more aggressive in the game. And anytime sometimes you have to live with a touchback if that's the result. But anytime you can get the returner to not catch the ball, that's a big deal. So that means there's no return, and gives you a chance for something like that to happen. So it was just it was a special day in that regard. The ball definitely bounced nicely for me on a few of those punts, and I'll take it. It was good.
Are you aiming for like a specific spot on the field, like a certain yard line, certain marker, like a hash when you try and pin a team deep?
Yeah, I mean, I always have an aiming point. Sometimes the distance is more of the aiming point rather than the direction. I mean, I'm always directionally, but you just kind of have to feel what's going on, right? Sometimes it's a pressure look, and you've got to be a little quicker. You've got to be attentive to that, and you've got two guys singled outside where they're worried about a fake, and they're not bringing as much pressure. Sometimes your gunners are doubled, so they may have a harder time getting down the field. So you kind of take in all that information and make a decision about what punt to hit, and how aggressive to be in those situations. So without giving away kind of exactly how I compute all that. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And I think sometimes on those shorter punts, it's so much more about. I mean, the direction is important, but it's so much more about the depth of the hit. Very few guys are going to catch a ball that's hitting at the 5 or 6 or 7 yard line if it's in the corner. And so, and the closer you are to them, it's different punting from the 50 as opposed to the plus 40. The plus 40s we've only got to cover 30, 35 yards, and so sometimes you can be a little more aggressive there as well.
This episode of Locked On Jets is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you just pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. This week on PrizePicks, you could take Breece Hall to have more than 80 rushing yards. You can have Garrett Wilson to have more than one receiving touchdown. You hope that Thomas Morstead isn't on the field all that much. I mean, we love him. He's giving a great interview right now, but him not taking the field as much means the Jets are playing well on offense, and you might be able to win on PrizePicks. And you should also know that PrizePicks offers a a reboot policy, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. And PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a free deposit match of up to $100. Again, it's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL, code LockedOnNFL. It's one word with no space, LOCKEDON for a first deposit match of up to $100 using PrizePicks. What part of the field do you feel like is like the point where you start thinking about pinning a team deep versus trying to hit it long?
I don't know. I feel like for me, it's the -40. You know, so essentially, once you get to the -40, you've got a 60-yard punt hits you a touchback, and so I don't even think I have a 60-yard punt this year. So I mean, it's not like I'm, you know, hitting long balls all the time, anyways. But I think once you get into that range of if you hit a 50 to 55-yard punt, you're inside the 10. You definitely start, you know, kind of having an aiming spot in your brain. For me, anyways. So I'd say about the -40.
And on the longer punts, are you like cognizant that you can't hit it too hard? I mean, that you want to make sure your cover guys can get down the field.
Yeah, I wouldn't say don't hit it too hard. I think hitting it hard is great. um, but yeah, you don't want to. I mean, there's some guys in this league that they'll average 50 something yards a punt every for a lot of their games, and they hit it 65, and they're going to give up. They're going to have a chance at a return every single time they punt. And then there's some guys that are, you know, going to not go for a long ball and try to have fair catches. So I try to find, there's just like I said, there's different situations every time, and if you just kind of had to say what one ball, if you could only hit one ball for the rest of your career, what would it be? I think I'm trying to hit, a 48-yard ball with, 4.8 seconds of hang time right on the sideline. That would be the ideal ball, but that rarely happens that you check all those boxes all at once. So I try to kind of play a more of a management style of punting where, I don't want a lot of big plays happening. Love it when I punt and then the play's over. So
How much of where you punt and how what the hang time is called from the sidelines? Like, are there like design plays where you're trying to like send the cover guys to a certain point, or is it just a decision you make and the guys just follow wherever the ball goes?
no, I mean, there's definitely communication about what the desired punt would be and where they should be kind of running to cover. Um, and depending on, like I said, every team's different. Some guys are great at pounding the ball. Some guys are really good at controlling the game and not having many returns. And so, yeah, I mean, we're definitely, if you're not in concert with your gunners, that's to me not a recipe for success. So we're definitely all on the same page as far as what we're trying to do before the play happens.
And when it comes to holding on a field goal, do kickers have different styles for where they want the ball?
Oh yeah, every kicker is different about what they want, and but you do it long enough, and you get to know guys pretty quickly, and it's just some guys it's not just physically what ball do they want held, do they want it this angle, do they want it lean forward or back. Sometimes it's not just dealing with that, it's also dealing with the personality. Some guys are super edgy and it's got to be perfect every time, and they're going to let you know it every time, and in a way sometimes you appreciate that because they're letting you know exactly what they want at all times. And then some guys are a little harder, some from the standpoint of they're easygoing. It's like, hey, they tell you what they want, but in the moment they're never going to it's always going to be their fault if something goes wrong, and sometimes you don't get the information you need, so you're always kind of balancing those two things. But yeah, I mean, every kicker I've been with is different about what they'd like to see and how they operate with you.
How big of a role does the long snapper play in the success of a punter? And I could ask the same when you're holding.
I mean, you can't kick it or punt it without the snap. So, hugely, and again, you kind of figure out what misses are kind of acceptable misses, kind of, what's your heat zone on the strike zone map? Where do I tend to do well if I get this type of snap or this type of snap? And letting your snapper know, hey, if you're going to miss, this is kind of the region that I would like a miss. And it's just highly I think communicating at a very high level is super important with both those guys. Just about constantly giving feedback and constantly you know also constantly encouraging. You don't always feel like you're in the zone. I'd say you more frequently you're not in the zone, right? So you're always trying to find that zone, and so it's just constant communication, constant feedback, and it's hugely important for sure.
This episode of Locked On Jets is brought to you by DoorDash. The Jets do not play on Sunday. We have to wait all the way until Monday night to see the Jets take the field against the Los Angeles Chargers, which means you're going to watch NFL games on Sunday. You'll be able to relax. There's no chance the Jets will lose. Kind of stress-free NFL viewing. So why not have DoorDash deliver you a great meal? There's so many great restaurants in the New York area that deliver from DoorDash, including weekends. We're heading into the weekend. Weekends make you smile, and so does weekend food. We're talking eggs, breakfast sandwiches, pancakes. You get the idea. All that and more is on the menu at Weekends in Williamsburg. The Joyful Cafe serves a mean brunch like the Soul Cal breakfast sandwich with avocado, smoked turkey bacon, rajas, and cheddar, and a hearty breakfast plate loaded with scrambled eggs, home fries, turkey, bacon, cheddar, and a slice of toast. Enough fuel for a full day on the town, or let's be honest, on the couch. And right now, DoorDash has a special offer for you. You can get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23. Subject to change, terms apply. Again, that's 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order when using the DoorDash app and entering code LOCKED23. It's one word with no space, LOCKED, number 2, number 3. Subject to change, terms apply. Did it help that you worked with Thomas Hennessy in the past? Is that the type of thing, as you began this year that kind of put you on a better footing than or is it easier when you've worked with somebody in the past than it is when you're starting anew with a long snapper?
I wouldn't say it's easier or harder. I would say there's less certainty or more certainty about who you're about to work with, right? So, a huge reason why I came back was because of Tom Hennessy. I'd worked with him, 2 years ago, and it was a great fit. So, that was, a lot of times when a player goes to a new team, free agency, there's a little bit of even if you have a connection with somebody that knows that he's works a certain way or does things a certain way, those dynamics, you never really know if they're getting all the things that led to them being successful at one place. Do all those things still match, or you still have all those things? And I would just say it's more a certainty thing. And that's why I think I was excited about coming back here, is because I knew that worked, and or it has historically worked. And then from the team side, they knew who they were getting too. There wasn't this question mark on the player about, how it's going to be to work with this person. So yeah, I would just say it's certainty.
It does. I guess the same question. I'll ask the same question about like the cover guys. Like I know, like in the past, you've worked with Justin Hardy with the Saints. Does it help like having played with guys, or does that make a difference at all, or is it just like
Yeah, no question. The fact that Justin was here was another reason I was excited about being here. Um, you know, everybody has the ability to make plays on punt team, but if you have a punter that can control the game reasonably well, and you have a gunner that you can depend on operating a fairly consistent level of play, you really can control a lot of plays before they get to the rest of the guys. And if you can do that, you're probably going to have a lot of success. So, yeah, definitely was excited about coming here with Justin, and we've been fortunate. Eccles does a nice job, and Hall does a nice job. Big Irv Charles has exploded onto the scene, and hopefully we'll get him back soon. Hopefully we'll get Hardy back soon. So we got some guys that can cover on this team for sure.
Yeah, Irv Charles, like every time he plays a game, he's making a tackle on the punt team, stoning somebody for like a 1-yard return.
Yeah, he's a pretty special talent.
I guess my last question is just about the way the team is playing right now. You've been on a lot of good teams in your career, a lot of really great Saints teams. I think you even were on the Super Bowl team all the way back in 2009. Maybe this is a tough question to answer, but Jets 4-3 right now, playing good football, 3 straight wins. Is it even possible to compare it to other teams you're on, or is it just a situation where every team's different, so it makes it difficult to do a comparison?
I wouldn't say it's difficult to compare. I'm not a fan of comparing teams. Every team's different. The dynamics on every team's different. How that team is winning every year is different. The personality that the team takes on. I mean, this team's totally different from 2 years ago when I was here. So yeah, I don't really like comparing it. It generally just, it generally when you compare your comparisons to death of happiness. So this team is exciting to be a part of, and we've definitely developed our own personality. And I will say this: that I think the character that you see on this team, and the I don't know what the word is for it, but we've already demonstrated kind of the type of guys we have on this team, and we're gonna have to lean on that, right? Because I think the margin for victory is quite small, which is exciting. That just means every play means a lot, and you can't take anything for granted. And that's some would call that being present. A lot of people have a hard time doing that in life. But we've got to be present for every play, and we are really getting a good practice in that. And we've got a few wins in a row now, so hopefully we can keep it going.
Thomas, thanks so much for joining, and good luck the rest of the way. Keep up the great work.
All right, appreciate you having me on.
Well, that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much to our special guest, Thomas Morstead, for stopping by, offering such great insight on the team and punting in the NFL. This has been the Locked On Jets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day is our motto. As always, if you enjoy the show, hit the subscribe button where you're watching or listening so that you'll never miss an episode. If you're listening on a podcast source and enjoy the show, please give it a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, give this episode a big thumbs up. These things help us out and help other Jets fans find the show. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Enjoy the stress-free NFL watching. We'll be back Monday. We'll talk Jets-Chargers Monday Night Football.